Hi, welcome to another Revenue Hub Expert Insights discussion. Today we're joined by three guests. LaToya Elam, General Manager at Homewood Suites in Atlanta-Alpharetta, Georgia. And we also have Jonathan Baker and Connor Vanderholm, the co-founders of Topline Revenue. In today's video, we're asking the question, should branded hotels consider engaging a third-party revenue consultancy? And if so, why? It's a wide-ranging discussion which highlights 5 key areas that are important to consider. Those are relationship, experience, engagement, knowledge, and communication. I hope the discussion is of interest, and please feel free to comment below. We're always interested in your thoughts and views. Finally, as always, if you're keen to hear more from thought leaders in the hotel and travel sector, please subscribe to the channel. Click that bell so you know when we have new content. And if you like what we're doing, please give a thumbs up. I know everybody says it, but it really does help the channel. Anyway, hope you enjoy it. Roll the intro. Hi guys, thanks for joining us today. Great to have you with us on another Revenue Hub video podcast discussion that we're doing here. Interesting topic, not just for me, but hopefully for our listeners and viewers, because we're going to touch on to, as a branded property, where you're already being provided revenue management support from the brand. Why would you contemplate looking at a third-party consultancy and how would they come in and add value? And there's a number of areas that we're going to pick out on here. So we're joined today by our expert partners at Topline and by our guest, LaToya, and I'll get you all to introduce yourself in a minute. I think the first thing I just need to say, for anyone watching this in Europe who is sitting in lockdown, the hotels in the US are open, as you can see.
Yeah, we're sorry.
So these aren't virtual backgrounds that they've got. They're real life. This is life outside of a home. This is what it used to look like. So Anyway, on that frivolous note, because we are all struggling a little bit with this COVID, but a little bit of a joke in there to lighten the mood a bit. Maybe if we could just go around and give ourselves an introduction. We'll come to the Topline guys because I already know them and some of you have heard from them already. So LaToya, if I could come to you first and you could just give us a bit of an introduction into yourself, please, that would be great.
Sure. Hi, guys. My name is LaToya Elam. I'm the general manager at the Homewood Suites here in Atlanta-Alpharetta, Georgia. I am previous director of sales here at the property for 3 years and currently moved into the GM role right during the pandemic in July of 2020. A great time to get into the business here. But yes, I've been at the property just about 4 years almost.
Superb. Thank you. John, you're the co-founder at Topline. Can we hear from you? Give us an intro. That would be great, please.
Yeah, absolutely. I started my hospitality career right in college, working overnight, wanted to take a foundational approach, get a holistic look at the entire industry. Wanted to start with night audit, front desk, morning, evening, moving into a little bit of sales. Tried the bar a little bit, wasn't my thing. Food and beverage, really not there. Definitely love the accommodation side of things. Moved into some operations management for some extended stay suites, mainly IHG's, Candlewood, and Staybridge brands, and managed one of those. From there, kind of departed and went into the revenue management for the big brands, Hilton, and spent a year and a half or so doing that. And then moved on to some independent hospitality, doing oil field lodging for about 2,700 rooms there before deciding, you know what? 2020 is the year, really start off something different. So that's when I got with Connor here, and we decided to go a different route and try and add some value to the industry in a different way. So that's where I'm at in this whole scheme of things.
Perfect. Brilliant. And no greater time than to start a new business during a pandemic, eh?
No, definitely not.
That's it.
So, Connor, picking up on that, can you give us an intro?
Yeah, no, exactly. For my background, I have a business degree, and I didn't know what I wanted to do for the longest time. Kind of fell in love with one of the major brands and really wanted to go work for them because they're such a great company. So I got that opportunity, and I worked on property, the full service property there in actually Oklahoma. After doing that for a time, I really wanted to get into revenue management. That's the people that I kind of associated with, just love the discipline. and it's right along the lines of who I am. And so I got the opportunity to work again with Hilton. That's my connection with John at their corporate revenue management office, and then later transitioned to work for Marriott, another large brand in their corporate setting as far as their revenue management support, and then worked for Aimbridge after that. So we really worked for three of the largest brands here in the United States from a corporate setting. And then 2020 happened, and just as John said, people think this is a terrible time. Why would you start a business now? We see it as a great opportunity, and we know that some of the largest companies and most successful started during downturns. And so that's kind of the approach we took, and it's just been a fantastic, I couldn't be picturing doing anything else. I love it so much. It's just so fun. Today we're actually out here in Atlanta. John and I are both from different states, quite a ways away. But it's just super enjoyable. Just love it.
Brilliant. Thanks guys for the introductions. And I guess then round to this topic, obviously, that's why we've got you here. How could we answer a question? What does a consultancy offer in addition to what the brand already does, without having somebody who's running a brand property and with some consultants there to support? So let's dig into it. Quite happy for whoever wants to go first. Maybe LaToya, kind of kick off with you as to what was kind of the rationale, the prompting. What were you hoping to get from maybe bringing on board an additional consultancy solution to support what you're already doing?
Well, I think the goal with having the consulting company come in, opposed to the brand, was the relationship and working closer to our revenue manager. Mm-hmm. In my experience with the brand, you really don't get that connection. Of course, you're going to have that scheduled weekly call or whatever that may be. But outside of that, it's kind of like an email. Hey, I need this. But to actually be able to pick up the phone and talk to your revenue manager if you have a concern or a question was way more value, I felt, in just working with the brand and kind of fitting into their schedule, opposed to the consulting being there whenever you need them.
Actually, when you needed it. Yeah, no, that makes sense. And did you find the kind of questions that you were looking to ask, or the information you wanted to get out of that dialogue was different? Could you could you see there was a real clear water between what you were getting from a brand side into what you maybe needed to ask from a consultancy perspective?
Absolutely. I found that with the brand, more so the questions that I was asking kind of got answered based off of just the computer system that helped them kind of project. And it wasn't real answers. It was just, okay, well, let me see what the system says that we should do, the recommendation there, versus more of an experience and a thoughtful, process of actually giving a solution and coming up with a plan from a consulting. They kind of dived in deeper to get to the resolution of the issue and give a true, honest recommendation.
No, that makes sense. And maybe I could just pick up what one of you guys from Topline, Connor or John, kind of having worked on brand side, providing that support, and now being outside of the brand, so to speak. Who wants to kind of, maybe you can give a perspective from both sides of the fence a little bit there?
Yeah, sure, if I may. So I loved my time working for the brand. It was just a wonderful time. Grateful for all the education I got on the subject. As I moved around between the different brands, I picked up different aspects of revenue management that none of them had individually. But as you start to see, hey, extranet assistance and group displacements, and this brand does it, but the other doesn't. I really just kind of picked up on the fact that everybody does it a little bit differently, and this gave us a great opportunity to say, hey, how do we think it's going to best serve our hotels? What tools can we bring on? What product offerings can we bring to the table that they're not getting because of their specific brand revenue management right now? And so it gave us that opportunity to really bring that all together, knowing what we know and having seen it from different angles. So that's something that I've really appreciated.
John, do you have anything to kind of add into those thoughts?
Yeah, I definitely have something to add to that. I think when we look at, why we're different from the brand in that perspective, especially for a hotel manager, is, first of all, the different brands have different calibers of revenue managers. Just straight up, you can say that. Some hire new college graduates and put them through the ringer, while others require years of knowledge and experience. It's just a reality. Second, we take a hands-on approach. We're out here in Atlanta. We're looking at the hotel. We're seeing what our other competitor set is doing. What's happening. Are they seeing anything? Driving parking lots, checking out what's going on. We visit the property teams. We make sure they're aligned with their goals as they shift throughout this recovery and hopefully more into normalcy. Third, we utilize the time-saving and leading-edge tools that help us consolidate decision-making into bite-sized bits that take information that usually comes from multiple different sources, whether that be from your reporting websites, content management, whatever it is, and we put it all into, like I said, bite-sized bits that you can make quick decisions on and adequate decisions, ones that help your business grow revenue. So that's one of the biggest things that I would say for sure. I mean, those several things.
That makes sense. I think some of the points you mentioned there are, all of the points are obviously interesting. Let me rephrase this. A couple of points I just want to pick up. There was, and I guess back to your perspective here, LaToya, is quite interesting to hear, because obviously when you're dealing with the brand side, you're picking up on the comment that they would recruit maybe graduates, or you've got, and Connor, you spoke on having multi-brand experience. I guess in a sense, I don't know what the typical tenure is in a revenue manager working brand side and the support that they're getting. But I would guess the perspectives of a multi-brand and multi-tenured, the conversations and questions and maybe challenges or ideas that are being presented to you could be vastly different, not just because of how the revenue manager at a brand needs to operate with you, but just based on the experience that they've got. Would that be fair? Do you have those differences been noticeable to you?
Absolutely. I found earlier on, after having 3 revenue managers in maybe less than 2 years, that the brand side kind of brought in, they had the levels that where someone would come in, maybe a lower level, get that experience, get that hotel connection, and then they get promoted, and then we have to start all over with a new brand, revenue manager. Right. So that was a challenge in, first trying to get that revenue manager up to speed about our market and try to give them something visual and give them indicators and be able to explain our historical data and what we do in our market. And then just to find out that, they're leaving and now we have to do that all over again. So it was quite frustrating. And I think that it puts a damper on your relationship, because you're building and then you're rebuilding and rebuilding, and it doesn't help our bottom line and being able to have someone that consistently comes, can do what we need, and versus us spending maybe 2 to 3 weeks trying to ramp someone in and bring them in and onboard them to what we do in our market.
Yeah. And I think it's interesting. We haven't had a chance, the chance to really speak in detail before we connected here. So I didn't know you were going to say you'd had, did you say 3 in 2 years? Now, that could be an isolated incident. We're not throwing any brand under the bus here.
I don't think it's isolated. I think it's kind of industry wide right now. Right. Okay. Least, because of the COVID changes, furloughs, etc.
Mm-hmm. So you're in a scenario. So there's a lot of time that you're then having to invest, almost onboarding the revenue manager to your property before they're then even to talk to you about what the systems are saying about your hotel. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. Right. That's exactly what happens.
Okay. Now that's an interesting challenge, to say the least. I guess I just wanted to pick up a little bit on the key word that you used there about relationship. And building a relationship. The fact that Connor and John, you're sitting actually in the property. That's I guess from my understanding, whether it's any of the major brands, most of their operations in terms of supporting their hotels is through a remote setup. So that conversation that you mentioned when you were talking with the new revenue manager who's onboarding, that's being done via a phone or a video link or whatever it might be. Do they actually come and visit the property? Would they visit the property, or is there, and maybe Connor, John, you can talk to this from your experience as well. What is that interaction between the brand and actually getting to see what is going on property and the surrounding area? I think, John, you spoke to that about, different ways that you're looking at what the dynamics are in that region for revenue management strategies.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it's an option for all the brands. I mean, they're not going to keep somebody from coming out and visiting a hotel. But is it something that is pushed and required for every single revenue manager to visit every single hotel? Absolutely not. That would cost too much money, if we're trying to subject, and we can start back on this. It's like when you look at a franchise, you're always spending money. You're like, you have your franchise fees, you have other fees, you have all these things, and inserting another $1,500 to $2,000 trip is just another icing on the cake that you can't expect all of your hotels to really buy into. So is it, required? By no means, but is it hindered? No. I mean, you can do it, but a lot of that money falls directly onto the hotel, whereas we take a lot of it off of them.
I've got you. And Connor, from your side, any?
Yeah, I mean, I've worked for many different brands in this capacity, and in every case, I had opportunities we started discussing it, but then it came down to either the hotels they can't afford to send us out to go visit them. Mm-hmm. They pay for all of our accommodations and flights and everything. For whatever reason, I never visited any of my properties, despite my desire to do so.
Wow.
Again, they say, yeah, you can do it, but these are the steps you have to follow to get out the property. And again, that cost just falls on them, as my partner said. So it just never happened.
Maybe this is an unfair question, but with COVID that has gone on, lots of people have struggled through this. We've seen people being furloughed. We've seen people lose their jobs. There's a big push to utilize the technology. There's a big, obviously, shift towards just not only clustering, because it's been clustering for a while, but just adding more hotels, because the train of thought being, well, if I've got the technology, the revenue manager can handle more hotels, we can do it remotely. But the fact that you guys are sitting there would kind of underpin that, yes, that might work at a certain level, but there would seem to be something that is missing from the need to have somebody to actually get to know the hotel, have that relationship, have that engagement. I'm not quite sure what question I'm asking. I guess I'm kind of driving. I guess maybe LaToya, I'm probably asking you as if to say, you've experienced it. There's obviously something more that you felt was needed. You were getting what you required from the brand from a pricing point of view, and that data analysis, price analysis, I guess. But I kind of sense there's a reason these guys are sitting there, in the sense of something that you weren't gaining from that remote solution. Can you talk to that for a bit?
Sure. I found that most times those revenue managers, they just relied on the historical data and just, let the system kind of figure out some things, but they never dived in to really get to know what's around us, what, who's our most frequent business that we go out to that come in, those indicators that would drive people in. If it wasn't on a report, they didn't ask. It was kind of like we had to push that information out there. It's like, okay, well, we do have this in our market. We have this, and we had to, always try to give them a visualization of what's in our market instead of them trying to research and find out for themselves.
And I guess with COVID, localizing a lot of things as well, the local market suddenly became even more important. So the understanding of that became even more imperative, yeah?
Right, absolutely. So those are the things that we really, it helps if the revenue manager takes the effort and time to kind of research the market, versus us always having to bring up things in the revenue meetings. And it's kind of like too late at that point if we're in our meeting and they didn't know that we had an amphitheater right around the corner, and the concerts are coming in and whatever it is, the companies, but we're constantly more so teaching the revenue manager about our market pretty much all of the time.
Right.
Yeah. And to add on to that, it's hard. Like we have an ice skating rink just up the hill. That's not something that's in every southern town in the U.S. So it's definitely rare. It's a differentiator, and we're right here. Those are the things that you kind of miss out on. And now we know, okay, from late October to early February, let's look out for some hockey groups, some tournaments, things like that. And it's just like keeping that on our radar and knowing what we're looking for.
If I could also, there's in a 30-minute phone call where you're focused on revenue, you don't often get to have substantive conversations around how the service level of the property staff is. And just being here with LaToya and her team, we can already tell how well they take care of their guests, because even when they're not looking, we're talking to guests, and we are watching how they interact with guests, and we know the high caliber that they bring. And that's such an important aspect of revenue management is, are people going to return? And so we can see that, having experienced it. We get recommendations just as a normal guest. We get to feel that experience ourselves. We stay at the hotel. We ask them their recommendation, where we eat lunch. She says, right across the street. They'll give you the hospitality discount. Tell them you're staying with us. It's just been super mind blowing to us. And when John and I were setting our goals for 2021, how we wanted to differentiate ourselves and really bring that extra value to our partners, these property visits were the top of the list, because we know that's a huge lack, and it's been wonderful for us, and it's going to continue for us.
No, that makes a lot of sense. I'm very conscious, particularly LaToya, you got a hotel to run, so it's great that you've carved out some time to sit down. But I just really felt it would be great to hear. We've spoken with Connor before, and he's been on, and it's very easy to talk to the consultants, and they tell you why a hotel. I think to actually hear it from the hotelier side, and I think what's come out from me, and I think anybody to listen to this would probably be harking back to something that's often discussed: the difference between when we talk about revenue management, and even that's debatable whether that hangs properly as a title, but also revenue strategy. And I think what's really come out is everything that you've said is you've had to outline what your hotel is all about and the surrounding area, to see if someone could be helping and advising you on developing strategies, rather than just looking at historical data and what your pricing may be at any particular point. And I think what's come out, and John, your point to having the ice rink, which must be a fairly unique, to understand that, LaToya, you could explain it, but whether someone sitting thousands of miles away with many, many properties is going to remember that in September, to have that conversation with you about October through to February is very different to having seen it. And I think that's what's struck me here, is just that being on property, seeing the staff, seeing the service, seeing the surroundings, seeing the facilities. And I don't just mean hotel facilities, but the facilities of your location, and how that can be leveraged in terms of pulling together some strategies. That's what's come through from me. Have I kind of taken the right message away from that?
Absolutely.
Okay.
I agree.
Okay. Mm-hmm. Any other points to kind of add into that? Because I think we've kind of highlighted pretty well some of the benefits, but it's if you guys have got anything else to add, please jump in.
I will add on, or in reference to the 30 minutes calls that we usually have with the brand, that time is critical, because they have another call after that and another one. So you have to try to give all of this information to this revenue manager in that little time span. Okay. And it's always, kind of structured in a certain way to where you only can get in a couple of words outside of that routine. Yeah. We're going to look at the star report, then we're going to go look at the group wash, and then there's really no time to actually give the idea, the picture that you need them to see about what's around us and everything. And then you have to schedule a call or email to try to have some time. The time is critical. Having that dedicated time outside of just the revenue call, or having some time to talk to a revenue manager to really explain and give that information to them, really, it helps. But just with the brand, it's just really not possible unless it's scheduled.
I've got you. I've got one final question, but guys, John, do you want to just pick up on?
Yeah, I was going to say, the easiest thing that Connor and I can both add to that is, I think it falls down to one word there, and I think it's ownership. we don't own this hotel, obviously. We're consultants, but we're definitely involved in the success. We want to see the team do well. We want to see this hotel do well. We want it to see and be number one on the star. And that's why we're out here. That's why we're looking at it. That's why we want, all of these things to go so well. And why we take those extra conversations and those extra steps is because we're a part of it. It's our business, Topline, and we're a part of it for the hotel. And our success is directly correlated to their success. So it's that ownership that comes from it.
Yeah, that's a really good point. Connor, do you have anything to?
I think they summed that up really nicely. It was I like hearing what LaToya has to say because it validates what our hope was for coming out to the property. It's certainly again been eye-opening for us, and it our experience doing several of these property visits now, really saying, hey, we're dedicating an entire week of our time to come out and see you. We're going to do this, and this with you. We're going and walking through your competitors' hotels. They're all giving us tours. We're asking them all the questions we need to know, and they're all very forthcoming with it. That has sparked up some very in-depth conversations about revenue strategy, and it will continue to do that, we're sure. And it's just LaToya, I've known her since 2017 when I worked with their property when I was with Branded. And it's just amazing to be able to come out and see and to have lunch with and dinner with these people. It's just it's wonderful for us.
Actually, get to know them.
Yeah, exactly. Because you just you put the face behind the voice, and no, it's a completely different thing.
I'm gonna throw one more question in, and then I promise I'll let you guys go. We've spoken about the solution from the brand is remote. You guys, Topline, you're not in Atlanta. Okay, so you're in Atlanta at the moment, and
yep.
You would be able to do some of these visits, which is obviously the value that you're gaining from there. But how does that interaction work? Because I think it's not the remote piece, is it? That's the challenge. It's more the interaction, the dialogue, the conversation. So how does a property manager, owner, general manager interact with an individual, a company that could be a few hundred or thousands of miles away?
Yeah, if I could say one of the tools, we recognize that early on. Everything is either email or it's over a quick phone call, or it's virtual in this sort of setting. We recognized that early on, and there was a big gap as far as a constant flow of communication between the property and ourselves. Which is why we actually partner with another company called GuestEgg. And basically, we've seen it as such a huge. It's more of an operations tool than a revenue management function in itself. They built in a revenue department so that those communications between us are cataloged. They're easily able to approve or deny, like if we have a major rate change for the upcoming month. So there's some definite revenue management functions that are going there. But we know that effective operations can be done better. And so we've partnered with them, and we provide that product as a part of our services for it. And maybe LaToya can speak to, maybe how she uses it or how it's affected her operations.
Yes, with the GuestEgg, it's been like a complete eye opener to what can be done. The limits on there is endless, and the communication that it opens up between everyone is amazing. We've been on it for I want to say the end of last year, so only a few months, but in that time frame we've gotten so much great response from our guests, which is great to be able to communicate with them. Even in this time, a lot of people don't want to come down to the desk. They don't even want to pick up the phone anymore. So to just be able to send a quick text message to communicate with the front desk is been awesome. And then between each other with the staff is awesome for me to be able to communicate with the staff or about important memos, and even down to the revenue management side where I can just send a quick suggestion or respond to a suggestion that Connor gives or anyone, then talk to ownership as well. So it's just been great communication between everyone. And I think just with the system alone, it just added so much value to the operation. And then to top it off, having that revenue management piece opens up that communication even more. I don't have to send an email. I don't have to pick up the phone. I can just send a quick message and know that I'll get a response, and like not waiting all day. I know that I will get it. So it's been great. And I think overall it helps the total operation.
So it's like popping around the corner and knocking on John or Connor's door.
Yeah. Wake up. Hey, it's me again.
Well, she's got my cell phone. She can call me at 10 o'clock.
Yeah.
And I'll run right over to the office.
Yeah.
Brilliant. Super guys. Look, again, I'm saying the same thing, but I do appreciate the time, and I do appreciate you got a hotel to go and run, so I don't want to hold you too much longer. But it's been really, really useful. I found it really useful to get a difference of perspective. Any final comments, thoughts from you guys, or have we kind of covered everything that we were hoping to from this discussion?
Yeah, I think we've covered it pretty well. I appreciate your time, Trevor.
No worries at all. It's great to have you guys. Topline obviously is one of our expert partners. It's great to have you on board. But as I say, I think what we're keen to do is try and bring the hotelier's voice into the conversation as well, because ultimately you are the guys that are front facing. You are the guys that everyone is trying to support you to run your hotel more effectively, more profitably. So it's probably useful that we listen to what are the challenges that you're actually getting and how those can be served. So I really do appreciate you taking the time to join us today. Thanks so much.
Thanks,
well, I hope that discussion was of interest, and thanks again to LaToya, Jonathan, and Connor. If you like the discussion, please don't forget to give a thumbs up. It really does help us out. If you're a branded property, specifically Hilton, and want some tips and advice to drive demand, here is another video you might want to watch. If you're interested in more of our expert insight discussions, here's a link to our playlist. And finally, please don't forget to subscribe. Here's a button you can click on. Anyway, thanks again for watching.